everybody. Keep it going. Keep it going. It's postseason football. I know that. I know that much about it because I don't really understand football. Like once it gets down to two teams, I can watch that game. But like once it gets closer to that, I sort of understand like these are the good teams, and I also can't like follow along with the Vikings because I have borderline personality disorder, and I get bummed out with intimate relationships. Nobody taught me how to. And do you guys understand football? Yeah, that's what I thought. Nobody ever taught me how to. Someone like has to teach you how to watch football. There's like so many rules. Nobody ever taught me how to watch football because nobody wanted to be my friend or my dad when I was a kid. Sometimes everybody laughs, sometimes everybody says, "Aww." But there was one season when I did get into the Vikings because they were like putting together like a great ensemble cast of interesting characters, which is like kind of what I need to follow along with the show. They had this guy, Jared Allen, who was like this redneck cartoon character, basically. He had a mullet. This was before everybody had a mullet. This was in between when everybody had a mullet. He had a mullet. He wore number 69 because it was funny. And he did like a bull dance when he would like sack guys. And the Vikings traded him a couple years later, and whatever team he was on made him cut his hair, change his number, and stop dancing. And he retired young. He's probably selling cars now. We also had that season Brett Favre. That was when the Vikings finally got Brett Favre after like his 5th retirement. The Packers finally said, "This time, we're done. I'm not taking you back." And the Vikings said, "I heard that you guys really broke up this time." It was after his dick pic scandal. Do you guys remember the Brett Favre dick pic? He was wearing just a t-shirt and Crocs and holding it all in with one hand. And look, we all have dick pics out there. Not anymore, obviously, but back then we all did. And I wear Crocs too, and sometimes I wear them in public. But I would be a lot more embarrassed of a picture of me wearing purple Crocs with just a t-shirt than even holding it all in with one hand. We had Randy Moss back. Randy Moss was a player that the Vikings fired for being a huge PR liability all the time. He was really fun, so they finally decided, since we're doing fun this year, let's get Randy Moss back. One time Randy Moss drove his SUV into a meter maid at like 1/3 of a mile an hour. Apparently, somebody who was friends with Randy Moss said she jumped in front of it. But I feel like she would get hit harder if she did. She's like, "Hey, you just hit me. You just almost hit a cop because I'm almost a cop." Randy Moss was like, "Sorry, I'm high." The NFL was like, "You can't just hit a meter maid and then say, 'Sorry, I'm high.' You're supposed to be a role model for kids." And Randy Moss was like, "Well, I think kids should smoke weed." And the NFL was like, "That's it, mister. You're just racking up bigger fines. You want a bigger one?" And then he like bragged that he paid the fine in cash and how big the fine was. The best part about Randy Moss is that his name sounds like an old-timey name for weed. Like what Oscar Wilde would call weed. "Dear Journal, a gentleman came calling with a very tantalizing herb. We put it up my pipe and smoked it. We got blazed as hell. It was quite a Randy Moss." I have a tip for you guys. I used to do this bit with a bunch of, when I was confused about my gender, but I feel very sexy tonight. Thank you. because I have tights on underneath my pants. We used to call them yoga pants back when I used to do this bit. But I think everybody just calls them tights now. Listen, no matter what gender you are, if you've never put on tights, nobody needs to know. You can wear them underneath your jeans. But everybody looks great in tights. Everybody looks like a fat superhero. And everybody looks good as a fat superhero. When it gets this cold, I get confused about what the temperature is because it'll say what the actual temperature is, but then I have to scroll all the way down to find out what it is with the wind chill. It says what it feels like, the temperature that it feels like. I have to scroll all the way down for this so that some scientist can tell me what it feels like. I'll tell you what it feels like. I'm a little bit confused because it says 5 degrees, but somehow it's -14. It feels like you're fucking with me. They know where I am. They know where my fucking phone is. They know what the actual temperature is, where I am, what it feels like. That's the temperature. I don't know what this other number is. Where is that? In the sky? In the satellite sky where the scientists are making up all this meteorology? What if everything on the news was just probability science? What if they didn't tell you about the scores of the sports? They just had a bookie come on and tell you what the scores are going to be like. What if they didn't tell you about crime? What if they just came on and told you how many murders there are going to be today? As if they even know what it feels like. None of you know what it feels like. Anybody make some noise if you're mentally ill? That's what I like to hear. The less applause, the more undiagnosed people in the audience. Like I said earlier, I have borderline personality disorder, which makes me like have intimate relationships with everybody, which is like why I do this. I was so sad as a child for such a long time that it made me act like a sad child my whole life, basically is what borderline is. And borderline is not a good name for that. It doesn't describe what it is. It's just like, I'm kind of like this, but I'm kind of like that. But that doesn't describe what it is. In Europe, it's called emotionally unstable personality disorder, which is a way better description of what it is. But the Europeans don't like that because it makes us sound crazy. Otherwise, what is the point of a mental health diagnosis besides that I can say, hey, I'm crazy. Somebody help me, I'm crazy. The best part about that, besides that being emotionally unstable is just kind of normal in like France, it's part of their culture. Italy, they have those hand gestures that's a little emotionally unstable. Germany, you smile too much, you're considered emotionally unstable. Besides that, it's called EUPD in the EU. How much more normal could that be? That's why I think we should call it USAD. USAD. Understandably sensitive attachment disorder. That's not the punchline. That goes earlier. I was updating my sexuality on Hinge recently. Anybody familiar with Hinge? The dating app designed to be deleted. I was updating my sexuality because periodically they'll like come out with new sexualities and I'll have to question mine. And possibly change it from questioning to something else. One of the ones they added was omnisexual, which sounds like a sci-fi sexuality. It sounds like it's like well, pansexual is you could be attracted to any gender configuration of human being on Earth. And then omnisexual is one level above that. You could be attracted to any sentient humanoid being in the universe or multiverse. And I think that I might be omnisexual, but I hope that when the aliens come to Earth, they don't just have weird, not weird, different ears and foreheads like in Star Trek. I hope they have different genitals, like they do in Star Wars. But I guess that's not canon anymore. Another one they added was autosexual. I was like, well, I don't know how to drive, so I guess I'm not autosexual. Autosexual is when someone is more attracted to themselves than they are to anybody else, and usually can only get sexual pleasure from themselves, can't from anybody else, just feels weird. And I can tell you guys, I think I'm autosexual. I think I'm omnisexual and autosexual. I'm a dialectical omniauto. You know, I have licked it many times. Thank you. But I'm not going to update my dating profile to say that. That's like challenging every man, woman, and everybody else on Hinge, because that's who I have my search settings open to. Saying, you know, maybe we could go out, think about it, just for my pictures, maybe you would want to fuck me. Good luck, because I would rather go fuck myself. I have more mental illnesses. I have like a whole complex web of interconnected mental illnesses, and I also love dressing nice. So I was thinking about if I lived in Gotham City, I would have to be a supervillain. I wouldn't be one of the scary ones like Bane or Joker. I'd be one of the fun ones like Riddler or Two-Face or Clayface or the guy with the clock on his face, Clock King. I would be called Jew-Face. It would go a little something like this. I have to warn you, my Batman voice is extremely gravelly.
I'm not gonna call you that, and you shouldn't either. Your ancestry says you're only 59%.
Batman, are you intruding on my data privacy? Batman, don't you know it's not about my race, it's about my face. My Jew face. I'm Jew face. Don't you understand, Batman? You should. Oscar Isaac was in Jew face when he was playing Moon Knight, who was a ripoff of you.
He's a pastiche.
Thank you. I read recently Ringo Starr from the Beatles and Shining Time Station said in an interview recently that when John Lennon and Paul McCartney used to jerk off together with some other guys for bonding at the beginning of the Beatles, Ringo wasn't there. Yeah, he just wants everybody to know he wasn't there. He wasn't that kind of guy. But I am that kind of guy. And I'm glad Ringo clarified that, because him being there really ruins the fantasy. I'm also a musician. I play bass in a band called Mommy Log Balls. Thank you. And I'm also starting some new bands. I'm going to start some cover bands. And I want to start some all-Jewish cover bands because I want to spread awareness that we do other stuff besides colonize and genocide. I'm starting an all-Jewish Led Zeppelin cover band. We're going to be called Lev Zeppelin. I'm starting an all-Jewish Pearl Jam cover band. We're going to be called Jeremy Betterman. And I'm starting an all-Jewish Disturbed cover band. We're going to be all Jews, not just the singer like the real Disturbed. We're going to be called Disturbed. Thank you, that's it.